if we are not told God's rules correctly, why should we go to hell for breaking them? And so this is going to be important for a lot of different kinds of people, religious and not religious. There's a lot of reason why people hate religion because it sounds so illogical. Like it's like, and people hate religion partly because God seems to be so vindictive. Like he's so desperate to punish people. Why did God make a hell? Why did there's so many different versions of this that I hear all the time. Like, what if God made Satan, then how can he expect us to be good, for example? There's all these different versions of this question. This is Wahid's great question. And it's all based on I think, general misunderstanding of what good and evil is, and why God bothered with all this kind of stuff. Um, so, so why are God's so do good and you'll be rewarded more. So first of all is this idea or understanding of who God is. Like, a lot of atheists, and maybe rightly for some, because they quote certain parts of, let's say, the Bible, um, get the impression that God is really miserable and nasty. But if you look in the Quran, and by the way, the Quran is a Islam is a religion that teaches that all religions are true at their origins, right? And that God has always been guiding all people, and God is so the number one thing you have to know about God, because this is what the Quran repeats at the beginning of every one of the 114 or so chapters, is that God is so kind, number one, that he gives you loads of stuff for free whether you listen to God or not. So this is like telling you about, like, if you understand God, then you can understand like what's happening. And then the second thing is God wants you to develop. They don't want you to be static, and he really encourages you by giving you stuff. So why is that all kind of really important? It's like when you're going into school or wherever, and you have all these different rules by the teachers. The teachers don't make the rules for the sake of it. They make it so you develop, is kind of the basic idea. So yeah, and also, I mean, so God, like, if you do anything good, you will be rewarded more than you deserve, because God, in the Quran at least, is the one who's so kind that it's like, you do one small thing, I'll give you 100 times more than that. And there's loads of different examples of that. And doesn't matter, like, if you, and also it's a religion that says you don't have to be a Muslim to go to heaven, for example. Like, sorry, yeah, that's right. You don't. So that's a short answer. Like, even if you're an atheist, you could go to heaven if you only thought, for example. And I'm a bit. Some people might contradict me with that, and I might be on sort of edge on that. But the idea is that you will be rewarded for whatever you know. So, for example, if you thought Islam means terrorism and all religions were terrible, and you just did the best thing you could, you will be rewarded for that based on what you know, right? Um, so those are some initial thoughts. What else have I written over here? My notes. So God is kind. Everyone is given so, and also there's a second thing, which is you do know some things. Even if you don't know, if you don't know religion, you have a conscience. Everybody's been given a conscience, and if they listen to that, they will do really well. And by the way, the idea of a conscience is very well understood by psychologists, even though they don't. When I say very well understood, they accept that it's there, from Freud to Viktor Frankl. They talk about listening to it and it being this mystical thing that somehow it tells you off when you're doing some good things and rewards you when you're doing wrong way around. It tells you off when you're doing something bad and rewards you when you're doing something good, and you can't escape it. You can't lie to it. I'm just going to quickly read some comments. So laws built for built for lying in UK. Law is built for lying in UK. Yeah, I can agree with that. The powerful create the laws nowadays, so help to protect them. Lie. Uh, Great to see you guys. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. That again, that's when I was explaining about who God is. But what's Mr. Universal Truth just said was the Arabic of the description of who God is, who is the most kind and also encouraging us to do good. So he's not vindictive. He wants us to do well. And so sometimes we see suffering, but it's like there's a reason behind it. But that's a very long story by itself. It's just like the short version of why is there suffering, and is because it's like imagine you're a little kid having lots of ice cream, and you know about ice cream, isn't it? Where he's right, and he's having way too much ice cream. It's like, and if somebody takes away your ice cream, otherwise you're gonna get your what did you get? Those stones in your kidney
Gall-
and all this
Gallstone.
gallstones, right? So if somebody takes it away, they're doing you a favor, but you might get really upset and start crying, like, "Hey, why did you take my ice cream? I love ice cream." But so something is good for you, but you
T-
don't quite like it. But anyway, hi, Universal Truth. Saw your video. Yep. Chat between the viewers. Doing good should be rewarded in this life. Yes, it is reward in this life, and that's what psychologists tell us. If you listen to your conscience, again, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, do check it out. He's a very well respected psychologist, not too far after Freud and people like him. Um, he basically says that doing good, doing meaningful things, which is basically doing good, okay, according to your knowledge, that will make you happy. And actually, by the way, Islam teaches the same thing. It says if you live, so another version of listening to your conscience, it's a bit, and it's actually I like to sometimes quote the Bible as well at the same time to demonstrate how I do believe in these different religions, but some of the Bible has been kind of corrupted with different ideas. That's why I don't always quote it. Is that if you fear God, now fear God sounds like a terrible thing, but like if you fear God, like you're very aware of God all the time, that's like listening to your conscience. You will have happiness in this life and the next, because when you don't follow you when you fear, like there's a God who's good and is watching over you, watching your thoughts, then you don't start doing planning evil things, because God is watching. Okay, and then you just do good things, and when you do good things are basically productive things. Like you can choose one. I want to sit at home, be selfish, and watch Netflix movies and forget the rest of the world. Or two, let's just say if we were making it really simple, or two, I'm going to go out and try to be friendly with my neighbor. If those were the only two options, right? If you knew God is watching your thoughts, you would go for option two, talk to your neighbor. And what would happen is you'll become happier. So good things are basically things that will make society and yourself happier. Okay, doing good in this life is punished with poverty and exploitation. So that's really interesting. People, it's really important that you're saying these things. And I would disagree. Okay, I would disagree. Um, but I understand where you're coming from, because that's how it looks like on the surface. So I would say I know loads of rich people, and they're so miserable, especially if I work with pretty rich people, right? Some of the richest people in the country at times, as a private tutor. And just having more stuff doesn't make you happy. And I've gone to some countries. In fact, I want to move back to some poorer countries, because in poorer countries, people just have each other, and by default, they're going to be happier. And when you say poorer countries, these countries, they have enough just to eat. And I remember when I was in the Gambia or when I was in Jordan, wherever, right? I was much skinnier first of all when I was in Jordan. I came back really skinny because we didn't eat much, um, and but we were a lot more connected. Like you go to a shop, you just have a conversation, and they'll give you a free sweet to the kids because it'll be a whole conversation. And the person who's at the shop, he sees himself as an uncle. Yeah. But So let me talk about, so all here disagrees, okay, and let me kind of go. So first of all, we know, psychologists know, just being rich doesn't make you happy, right? Okay, and being giving makes you happy. Like, again, psychologists know that. So I think, as I say, like, this is one of the problems about unity. Like, how do we overcome disunity? Is learning the truth, the reality of what actually makes us happy. So I don't feel jealous of richer people, because I'm like, oh, poor things most of the time. From I've so in fact I've Yeah, okay. So some interesting comments like, no, wealth is not owning. So please explain that. That's a really interesting comment. But also about exploitation, all here says. I'm going to quickly say something because I want to give a chance to um, he to say something about exploitation. There's all this idea about us being, again, what's the word? We are we are weak and powerless, and yeah, there's a word for all of that, right? Like, we're victims. That's the word, right? But as soon as you start doing things for other people, you realize that you have the power to change things. And actually, the one thing I like to say, real happiness is not in things. So you cannot have happiness robbed from you. And so Viktor Frankl, just to give you a bit of background, he was in a Nazi concentration camps. He didn't have anything, and he still found meaning and peace while he was there. And I mean, there's a very extreme situation. People who didn't find meaning died really quickly. We So everybody had, so there's an example in the book. It says about how everybody seemed to have this thing. I think it was typhoid or something. But if you had meaning, somehow your brain overcame your sickness. But as soon as you gave up mentally, people would die really quickly. Like, one person thought, he had a weird dream, and he had a dream that the war would end on a certain day, and he literally died on the next day when his dream wasn't fulfilled or something. He just had some weird dream, right? So we're really affected by our thoughts. So I think we should start really realizing how powerful we can be, how much effect we can have. And I don't feel a victim despite not having much money, and I feel like I'm making a difference in small ways. And I think this is the only way forward. Like, as soon as we say we are victims and we're just exploited, then that doesn't help. Like, I want to hear, what can we do? That's it, really. But anyway, doing a lot of talking, and I only gave you a minute left. Wahid, sorry. Any thoughts?
Yeah, we can. There's a lot we can do to, like, getting ourselves, as you were saying, getting ourselves in order. As you were saying. Um,
Yes. Sure. Yeah, that's brilliant. Get your house in order, and then
yeah,
suddenly, at least you, rather than waiting for some, a night on whatever the phrase is, right? Nice shining night on horse, whatever the phrase is. I'm rubbish
yeah,
with phrases, but you know what I'm saying. Like, somebody to save you,
yeah,
like, save
yeah.
yourself right now. Start feeling good about right now. I want people to be happy, at least. But okay, say we are victims, and we are victims of society. We're victims of our own doing as well.
Mm,
Like, save yourself right now by feeling good, by doing something good.
absolutely.
Um,
Try.
yeah,
Don't take it for granted. Be kind to, as you said, be kind to your neighbor and the people around you, because eventually these things are gonna, a day will come along when these things are not going to exist, and things are likely to get worse. We don't know.
yeah, that's
Uh,
really true. The way the world is going,
the way the world
I
is
really
going, soon
things.
now people, it's the money which is ripping people apart, even for small things.
Yeah,
People want to. I mean, there's another thing when people go on holiday,
mm,
people want to rip each other off and compensate one another. Money talking.
Interesting. But I
Why?
do get what you're saying. Like within families, people chasing money, and I want this, and I want
I
this
want
inheritance, and whatever.
people are not,
So
and this is what's breaking families.
yeah, so yeah, definitely money is just not the problem by itself, because money can be really divisive. But money is not really the problem by itself either. It's not you blame the money either, because money is just paper. It's just values for us. It's
Yeah,
what we do with it. It can be really powerful for good and bad.
exactly.
But,
Yeah, but
but it's us that has to get, like you said, get your own house in order before we can start fixing the world. Anyway, let's just jump into